Group 1 figured out in the wording of the fictitious bid that there was no reserve, so then he didn't have a lot.
Yeah, without, and I do believe that, well, I don't know for sure, the records are not that crisp on whether this was a without reserve. There was a discussion of a reserve. That Henry had said there was a discussion of a reserve, it never was clear whether there actually was or wasn't.
Just one quick question, and this, assuming that they were actually fictitious bids, then the burden of proof would be on Head to justify that they were actually legitimate bids if they were. Like, since it's just a verbal agreement, how could he, 4 years later, justify that if it actually was the case?
I think it's, not to maybe answer your question, but to answer a different question. I think it's telling that Head immediately upon the lawsuit being filed said, if you don't prosecute me, I'll testify.
Yeah.
I think that suggests that they were fictitious, that they were genuinely fictitious. You can say that.
What information did he gather over 4 years?
Well, just having enough information to file. It wasn't that it necessarily took that long. He had suspicions the day of the auction. He, Foster, and Veazey both talked, and they said, you know what, it kind of stalled out at 20, and when you got here, it all of a sudden ended up at 40. Don't you think that's odd? And Veazey said, yeah, I think that's odd, but what are we going to do about it? And then someone else said, you know, I think Head does that, or Head may have had another auction where they ran the bid, and Veazey heard of that, and it just took that long to, it took that long. Things took that long back in the market. Let's do another one. Our next case, and you don't have to look at it necessarily if you don't want to, you can, if you don't have to, is the U.S. Supreme Court, Mottram v. the United States. That means that Mottram is suing the United States of America. After World War I, President Wilson authorized the sale of surplus war items, and one item that they had, and actually it was in Europe, was known as garlock packing. I don't know if any of you have experience with that, but packing material that you put around pipes and seal it, and it hardens if it gets dry and stuff like that. Well, they had excess. They hire an auction firm, J.G. White, to conduct the auction. J.G. White produces a catalog describing the garlock packing, and Mottram is interested in the garlock packing. Mottram goes over to Europe to look at the garlock packing, inspect the packing. What he sees is a big warehouse with about 1 ton of garlock packing. He gets the catalog, and I want to read you the actual phrase in the catalog. This was in the catalog. That these items are selling with all faults, imperfection, errors, or descriptions in the lots of the catalog and without any warranty whatsoever. The buyers being held to have satisfied themselves as to the condition, quality, and description of the lots before bidding. We could stick that in the catalog. Yeah, that's a good, I like that paragraph. The catalog said there was 100 tons of garlock packing. Mottram is the high bidder at $9,000, writes a check to the United States of America for $9,000, and in the note part of the check writes 100 tons of garlock packing, because the catalog says there's 100 tons of garlock packing. First time in the history of the United States that the United States sent a check back and said, we don't have 100 tons of garlock packing, so we can't deliver it. We're returning your check. If you rewrite the check for $9,000 and note that there's 1 ton of garlock packing, we'll cash it. Otherwise, we can't take your check. Mottram said, I want the 100 tons of garlock packing because your catalog says there's 100 tons of garlock packing. It says right in here there's 100 tons of garlock packing. Take a look at your questions. Same groups, 5 minutes. See what you come up with. 1, concentrate on 1, 2 on 2, 3 on 3, and we're going to start with 5 and work the other way. So be ready.
I was well originally to handle question 3. Who's handling question 3? We're all.
Is this one? Five.
Well, it's all back one.
Oh.
So,
How are you?
good, how you doing, Mike?
Good. Good to see you.
Come on, Ann, we won't fight.
I can fit in here.
Having fun?
What do y'all think?
Well, that's good to take a
Tell off
time.
said
A little
that.
time off.
But it says, what if J.G. White said you're buying 100 tons? Until you're buying 100 tons and I shortchange you, you don't know, I mean, that's not even, there's no.
But it said you
Fraud.
inspect, it's up to the buyer to inspect, it's as
Inspect,
is where
and
it
he did
is.
inspect.
Yeah, but then he made a verbal statement, you know.
That verbal statement may hang him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
At all,
I
at the
agree.
block, if he made the verbal
Yeah,
statement,
if he
that's gonna hang him there.
Yeah, 'cause
Even though it might be covered in the contract, they might say, you know, we won't take liability for anything printed or said.
How many people got on the
Oh,
block?
actually, usually is the
Announcement.
auctioneer's
Announcement.
words to final,
Yeah.
Yeah, how many
Auctioneer's
of
words
you
are
got up there and
precedent.
said that exact same thing? Announcements from the block? saying
Yeah,
precedent
of-
over all printed material,
All printed
yes.
materials.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that hung them right there. I think so, anyway, but, because
Well,
then
sir.
that's stated, if we just go based on what we see, like, that's our
Question,
answer, right?
question one,
Is this a different case if we're,
if you didn't personally inspect it,
No, because it's his duty to inspect, isn't it?
yeah, it's.
It's not the auctioneer's duty to.
Yeah, but if he,
It is buyer
when he
beware.
inspected and he saw, that, the question is, he inspected and he saw that there was only 1 ton. You know, the implication might be that there's another 99 tons someplace else, and when they put in the catalog about 100 tons, that doesn't, I mean, that would indicate that it might be 99, 98, but it's gonna be very close to 100, not 1. I mean, that's not about, and so by putting that about 100 tons, there's an implied contract that you're gonna get about 100. Now, does the inspection negate that's the question. Because he went in there
And inspected.
and personally inspected and saw that there wasn't.
I mean, it's probably covered in the rules, but then you know, you can sue people anyway, you know, so.
Well,
It's all like listen to it, you know?
If J.G. White said, and it says what if, J.G., if he did say, sir, you're buying 100 tons.
That'll make all the difference,
Yeah.
you know? I mean, it might be covered, like I said, in the terms, but it's still gonna make a difference when it comes to a court.
I think
you know?
when if he said that, I'm with the gentleman here, he thought there was 99 tons elsewhere. If he said that, I think he's in the wrong.
Yeah.
But without
He
doubt.
should have clarified.
Go to the Supreme Court.
But that's a what if question.
Yeah.
So, you know.
When he said that.
It's an implied contract,
I think so.
or
Absolutely.
an implied warranty, I'm sorry.
You have number 5, the last one. Yeah, that's the most interesting.
I like that. I sell by the piece all the time, and I have to guarantee my counts because you have to. You know,
Yes, we do.
You have
If you're short, we'll pay, if it's short, we'll
Well,
pay it
just
back.
I mean, yeah.
Even in real estate, you do a survey after the fact and you pay for what you want.
Yeah.
That would be a tough
I
one.
think that verbal statement implies a warranty.
So it's-
If you
Well,
made
you're
that.
basing your,
Yeah, if he said,
you're
you're
basing
fine.
the value off of 100 versus 1, so I mean, and he really thought it was 1.
It wouldn't have been 9,000.
Well, if he
Yeah.
inspected and all he saw was 1, who knows what he was basing his bidding off of?
Right.
But when the guy gets up there and yells from the block, you bid on 100
You're buying
tons.
100 tons.
He based his price on that.
Yeah.
I think if he just sent him a check back for $900 and said, well, you skipped a couple zeros on me and I skipped a couple zeros on you. Now we're all over.
Yeah,
That's good, I like that.
Solved that, but you're exactly right. If you're basing your bid on 100 tons and $9,000, you're saying it's $90 a ton, and that's your bid, and you only get 1. You know, that's the issue. I mean, it would seem like $9,000 in 1918. It would, I mean, it would be for 100 tons. I mean, I don't know what the item is. I mean, I don't know what it is.
But if there's a
You wouldn't pay
bid behind
9,000.
him of 8,000, they're assuming there's 100 tons there also.
Yeah.
Sure.
So he's not the only
Sure,
one.
Probably.
Yeah,
Is
because
that
somebody
market,
else is bidding against it.
is that
That's
market
true.
supporting that bid?
Well,
People have to think there's a kind of.
it does indicate that when you're doing a catalog, at least on personal property, you have to have it right.
But, and
You
you
have
know,
to have it right.
it's probably worth about $90 a ton or so, and you're getting up to 9,000.
This guy,
Guys, you realize there's only 1 ton, you know? Usually, clarification.
I think you have a duty, but like you wherever you go. You know that's well outside of the market.
So if he said, yeah, the government owes him 900 tons, right? They got-
Really?
Or, like, we don't have to sale.
We should have.
Might write up.
What?
You seemed pretty hard last night.
No, we were in the proposed.
There's 5 more.
Yeah.
Start here.
No, we were in we had girls.
I let him drag me out to go to karaoke.
You went to karaoke?
The problem is, I told him I was gonna send Minnie the Moocher, and I wanted to do the auctioneer, and then they called me up, and I put Minnie the Moocher in first. So I go up there, there's like 2 or 3 years, where they put up first, the auctioneer, so I missed the whole first verse, because I'm ready for it. Oh, yeah. That's like, it was a boy.
Oh, that? No, not our Florida auctions, other ones. But they're working hard.
I hadn't gotten long enough to read the day before, I would've gone. It was fun. You have to see the pictures, there
But
was
yeah,
pictures
you'll get
that
them
song about it, it was on the shower or whatever, and I just start dancing whenever that song comes on, you know me. There were 2 young girls came shooting up and started dancing, because everybody's videoing it, and I'm like.
Okay, number 5 is gonna start. So if we can give our attention to number 5's representative, they're gonna discuss, and we're gonna go in reverse order. They're gonna answer the question or their opinion about the question, what if J.G. White, the auctioneer, said to Matra, when he got the auction underway, we've got 100 tons here, would you start me out? Or something to that effect. What if the auctioneer noted orally that there was 100 tons? Is that what your question was? Yeah.
So if he said it, then the bidder is basing his bid that there is 100 tons, if it was said when it was offered up.
Might have been looking at the catalog. Guys, our next lot is 100 tons. I mean, it says right here in the catalog there's 100 tons, so maybe he looked right at it in print.
Right. So that's what so then they would owe him 99 tons, if he's bidding 9,000 based on thinking that there's 100 tons there.
Thoughts about that?
That's hard. That's number 2.
Yep.
Well,
the United States owe much from 100 tons of package, which is the second part of this.
if the auctioneer said there were 100 tons, now number 2, does he owe him 100 tons? That's what we're answering now. If he orally acknowledged, orally described the lot as 100 tons, took the bid of 9,000, or eventually got to 9,000 and said sold.
Fill in your mouth.
Do we owe him 100 tons? You guys are saying yes. Yes, they do.
Yeah, but on the other hand, if the fellow went out and made a physical inspection and saw one pallet, did not clarify what he was bidding for.
It says here that he noted it. Well, we took that as saying that he realized there was 1 ton.
Yeah.
Noted 1 ton.
Looked like, I think you could probably tell between 1 ton and 100 tons.
Well, maybe the others was in a different warehouse.
Oh, it's somewhere else.
What if they only brought in 1 ton for space requirements?
Just to show what it was.
Yeah,
This is
just
1 ton.
display.
Back then, he wouldn't bid that much money on 1 ton.
Right.
He's basing his bidding on.
He didn't want anyone else, he didn't want the other bidders to think there were 100 tons.
There's a backup bidder, so you know their assumption is there's 100 tons also.
Yeah, everyone's bidding things 100.
I suppose, although they've inspected.
Is everybody bidding for only 1 ton?
You know what?
I don't know if everybody inspected.
What I'm reading from the catalog, it says there's 100 tons.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna get with the auction.
That's what I was sure
about this man.
Where's the dude?
Except for taking that time.
Where's his?
But if he said
Can let me ask a question. Can the auctioneer say in his opening remarks, or her opening remarks, folks, thanks for coming to the auction, you're buying everything as is, where is, no guarantees, no warranties, not implied or expressed, so be sure to inspect it because what you see is exactly what you get. I'm not, you can't, in other words, you cannot believe anything I'm about to tell you. Now let's get underway, and we've got 100 tons of our
No, you wouldn't clarify like that.
Wouldn't that last part?
Yeah.
What you just said, the as is where is, that is in my mind, a description of condition, but it's not, it wasn't a description of
Pliable.
quantity.
Garlic.
Yeah, quantity.
Right, because you said what you see. You said that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm asking a question.
And
Don't we do that? Don't officers do that? You're buying everything as is. Buyer beware.
Yes.
Yeah, but then the
But
last.
believe me, there's 100 tons of garlic packing here. No, there's not. Well, yeah, I said there is, but you can't believe that.
Except if you give me a written catalog, and I'm gonna rely on that, and then if you come out and say, that your oral statements and throw the catalog away, but that's not the case here.
Well,
We have the catalog with the quantity.
Yeah.
But sometimes in a disclosure.
I'm gonna rely on the catalog, and I'm gonna make my.
Sometimes in
case.
a disclosure, we put that some of the properties may not show up because of things that happen. Please make sure you make an inspection of your own. prior to
Despite
the
what
bidding.
we print, or
Yes, sir.
despite what we
It could, something
say?
could have happened, they could
Or
wreck,
either.
wreck the vehicle on the way to the consignment. Or
Yeah.
anything
We
could happen.
say at every auction, the catalog is a guideline, the guideline only. Rely on your pre-auction inspection to go from there.
Your
If-
pre-auction
If this
inspection.
catalog says, in our auction world, if this catalog says it's a Caterpillar, you flip the hood and it's bright blue and it's a Detroit.
I'm gonna sue your ass.
If
It's
I've
that simple,
disclosed,
because I've got the catalog and that's what I'm
if
relying
I
on.
See, we
disclose
also
in there
say
that it's a
it's
guideline, a
statements made
guideline
at
only.
Read all the
Podium
false
and
claims.
Their question is, number 5 here, that they've answered is, we know the catalog's wrong, but now the auctioneer has orally
It's double wrong
said
now.
He's confirmed
there's
it.
100 tons of garlic
And that
packing
is
big
bid
trouble.
sold for $9,000, and it's
He's
not.
stacking the deck against himself by doing that.
What about on the Caterpillar tractor example you just gave? So it wasn't a Caterpillar brand, it was a different brand. What if you said we have 2 to sell, and you only had 1?
Why are we talking about
Five to
tractors?
sell, and 2 of them were there, and 1 was.
Okay, well, that's a problem too, but
There's a
difference in
billion, it's just
brands,
like the
different
first page, I mean, there's a billion different ways of looking at this when we don't have all the info.
Here's
We're
how,
all-
then we'll get to number 4 here. Here's how courts, maybe I can answer that. Here's how courts have routinely looked at errors in the catalog, people basing their bids on the catalog and then not any, they say you say it's a cat and it's a Ford or whatever, or there's 100 tons or 1 ton, is intent, premeditation. Did they put 100 tons there to get more interest? Did they falsify the descriptions in order to garner more participation in the auction, knowing full well it wasn't 100 ton? Or is it a mistake? Is it unintentional? It's not premeditated. The court's much more sympathetic. If you say, Your Honor, we've printed thousands of catalogs over our lifetime, and we just goofed up on this. Instead of 1, we wrote 100. We made a mistake. You're probably gonna be okay then. If Montrim can find 5 catalogs where the United States has said 100 tons of garlic packing and there was only 1, repeatedly doing that, they're gonna probably, I say probably, gonna lose that case, because now it shows a pattern of practice. We are falsifying catalogs to induce competition and encourage you to, if you always said it's a cat, no matter what it is, eventually, Joel, somebody would win, but if you make a mistake.
Well, like I said,
courts
the
are
table in there,
sympathetic.
anybody that does catalogs, you can't tell me that your catalog has been perfect every single single.
No.
And that you've had to clarify it your own.
And things change, things change,
1926,
things
the
happen,
typewriters are
things change.
different.
That's why there's small print at the bottom of it to read.
We got a comment?
And we're looking at $9,000 here, which I don't know what a ton of packing material is worth. But
Apparently about
hypothetically,
$9,000.
yeah, hypothetically speaking, could you justify the fact that the remaining competitive bids are based on the fact that there's only 1 ton there, because it's sold for $9,000? If there's 100 tons,
I
it'd
think
be
you have to look at
$90,000.
the market for it also.
The government
The
could
market
certainly
support.
cite, I don't know that they did, but they could cite, let's see what other 1 ton, 2 ton, 3 ton packages have sold for, and this 9,000, he was clearly thinking 1 ton. He's just trying to play us
Yeah.
for 99 more. Is
Well,
that-
it also says that he saw it and he knew there's only a
You
ton
look
there.
at it. Who's number 4? Here? Who's your spokesperson, number 4? Is Montrim in contract for 1 ton or 100 ton?
Joel.
I say he's in contract for 1 ton.
For 1 ton?
We're doing 3 and 4 together. Because we also stated that without the as-is, whereas is there a case difference, and we said yes. Because we felt by your statement of as-is, whereas was the disclosure that you read, the extra sheet. That was the title of the as-is, whereas, for the full disclosure. So that's how we took it.
Okay.
In this
All right.
question.
So he's in contract for 1 ton, because there was only 1 ton there, he had a chance to
Now,
inspect it,
and
and
he
it's
had a
sold
good point,
as
one of
is.
these guys had a good point too, they said, well, you could go back to the co-bidder and see what if this gentleman just stepped forward and just started at $9,000 and it ended there?
Right.
So without, like you said, without going back and search comparables and find out, yeah.
I believe, I don't know this for sure, I believe there were other bidders. I don't think he was the only bidder.
Well, what was the backup bidder? You could always pull him into court and say,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
were you bidding on,
What were you
100
bidding?
tons or 1 ton?
Does the contract actually exist? Even though they said sold, it's for the wrong amount. which was not disclosed until, or determined until after the fact. So was there even a contract?
Well, we don't know, we went reverse order, the auctioneer hasn't said 100 tons.
But
Let's assume the auctioneer hasn't said anything, you're buying the Garlock packing, lot 36, or Garlock packing, the catalog says 100 tons. There's actually only 1 ton. When he says sold,
Then you would be in contract.
there's a contract for what?
100 tons.
100 tons, because the catalog said 100 tons?
Motrin inspected the items and noted there was 1 ton of packing on it. I mean, that's,
But again, that doesn't mean that he doesn't believe that there's more elsewhere.
Yeah.
The meeting,
Sample, floor sample.
Right.
the meeting of the
I think his
minds.
overact, him noting himself, there's only one.
Don't you have to have a
ton.
meeting of the minds to have a valid contract? Don't you have a mutual assent? You have to have 2 parties that are thinking the same thing. Are they, is Mottram and the United States thinking the same thing?
No. Not as it turns
Or
out.
is Mottram saying, I know there's only 1 ton, but I'm gonna see if I can get 99 more? I am thinking there's only 1.
That's
And
exactly
that's,
what.
and that's something
Then
you
that's
have to
the-
take on inference based on the evidence there.
Yeah.
You'd have to be able to, as you said before, do some research, find out if there were backup bidders, if they were, find out what they were bidding on. If there was precedence for a ton of this package.
And
or
market
selling
value, I
for
think you
that
mentioned
amount
market
now.
value. What's the
Right.
market value of
Exactly.
Garlock
We give you the
packing?
clues.
Exactly. You could infer from those examples if he was just playing a game or if he really thought there was 100 tons.
Who's group 3?
Those are
Who's your spokesman?
Already did.
Oh, that was both of you guys.
Yeah.
I forgot.
Just kind of rolls together.
2,
I'm trying to fool you.
Cindy,
No.
no. Does the United States owe Mottram 100 tons of packing? And your answer is?
No.
No. And it's a good thing because they don't have it. Right?
Make some
That works out well. They don't owe him that because, what's your reasoning?
Well, they don't owe him that because of the statement, up front, as is, whereas he inspected the product, he only saw, 1 ton, and it was his responsibility at that point to ask, where's the other 99? I'd like to see that too, where is it? There's no mention that he did that, so he knowingly was bidding on 1 ton.
Knowingly and noted it was only 1 ton.
Noted.
And noted it was only 1 ton.
And he had, I think that was established in court, that he had inspected it. You don't buy, how many of you buy Garlock packing? I mean, it's kind of a specialty, isn't it? And so you know your Garlock packing, he would know what 100 tons is or 1 ton, I would think. I would think.
Would think.
Number 1, who's number 1? Is this a different case if Mottram didn't personally inspect the item?
No, it's not a different case.
Same answer.
It's the
Same answer, even if he hadn't gone over and looked at it.
Because he would have had the catalog, and hopefully in front of the catalog, you still have your printed terms and conditions. And somewhere in there, it's gonna say, what we read earlier.
But it would change.
You're gonna have that in your terms and conditions.
Why would it?
He tells the Supreme Court of the United States, Your Honors, I didn't go over and look, I didn't have time. I did my best to check the catalog, I read the catalog, I didn't notice this, quite frankly, I don't remember if there was an as in there or not, I don't remember reading that. But I sure remember saying 100 tons of
And it goes
Garlock
back
packing.
to ignorance, no excuse.
It's his responsibility to do due diligence.
The buyer's got a responsibility to inspect
Yes,
or
he
not.
is.
He didn't do his job.
But I think,
You're having an online auction. Your item is in California. I'm in Vermont. I have a responsibility to drive to
Yes.
fly or drive to California to
No,
look at
It's a different level.
it or not.
We had a guy that flew into St. Louis to buy comic books from California. He had to inspect them.
It's his, in other
It's
words,
his-
if he
it's
doesn't
his
inspect and he doesn't
responsibility.
get what you described, he's stuck.
I
That's
describe
too
it,
bad.
but then I say,
But
it's
as
your
it
due
is.
diligence to
Yeah.
come and look at it, and you might disagree with the grade that the third-party grading services put on it, but how are you gonna know if you
It
don't
is
even come and
extra
look?
fine,
Your listings at
but I might be lying to you.
He has a
Is that the
choice,
message?
but he still has a choice.
Oh, he doesn't have to, he doesn't have to.
He don't have to bid.
Yeah, you don't have to bid. You don't like it, you don't have to.
I just think there's a distinction between the quality of what you're buying, the condition it's in,
Yeah.
and a 100-fold difference in what you got quantity. So I think that this company wants to tell the court, we've been doing this for years, we made a mistake. The court's gonna say, fine. The court will not go out and make them procure 99 tons and take a huge, you know, a huge.
Particularly the United States.
But I would think the equitable thing to do is to find the guy that was 1 ton, but adjust the price that he's only, you know, he's not paying for 100 tons.
Sell it to buyer number two.
Get the runner up here.
It's the same as when you're selling cars, and the buying public on this side sees the good side of the car, or it's on the internet and sees the good side of the car, and the other side's, you know, got scratching and not so good, they're still liable for that
Well, but
car. Is that true?
I agree with that, except that in this situation, if there was 100 cars, you only got one.
Let me see, Kurt.
And, you know, I sell by the piece, and I have sold by the piece for 30 years, and by the piece, as David is exactly right, it's the condition is a as is, where is, but the quantity is a different thing, and I think the case law is very clear, that if you're saying that there's 100, if you're saying it's a pallet, I don't know, it looks like 100, it's a different thing, that's salesmanship versus, you know, you're putting
I'm telling you
100 down,
exactly how.
because I'm basing my bid on the quantity, and so, and we guarantee because we have to, because, you know.
But in terms of.
Let me wrap this up with what the court, I know we got other comments, but you guys got other places to go. What the US Supreme Court said is auctioneers can sell things as is and where is. Certainly you can do that. 2, that catalogs can be subject to error. You can print a catalog and say, if you put a disclaimer that they're subject to error, omission, that you need to check.
The disclaimer.
However, you can't do any of that unless your inspection is open for the public to inspect the item. You have to let them in to inspect the item. There has to be reasonable time to inspect. You can't tell them they can inspect midnight to 2:30 in the morning on a Saturday, because they can't, well, too bad they can't inspect. Can't have that kind of policy. It's gotta be open in reasonable time. And third, there can't be any fraud. You know, we don't have time to talk about fraud, but none of you committed fraud, because it's hard to do, and it takes time. So, but there can't be any fraud. Open for inspection, as is okay, and subject to error is okay, as long as it's open and there's reasonable opportunity to inspect. So consider that when you're having inspection periods, and make it reasonable and open for everybody to get in. Thanks for coming by.
This group, out that door to the Georgia. The room is already, they've already moved on, or that, the Georgia